Good morning from my side. Happy Sabbath to all. Amen. Who's glad to be in the house of the Lord? Amen. It's nice to finally be at a church where we can see there's passion in the way we sing. We sometimes struggle with that in our other Adventist churches, but here I can say we don't even have a pianist or someone that can play, but I can feel you guys are singing with passion, so it's very nice for us to experience. It's nice to be here with you again. It's only our second time, and we do not feel like visitors anymore because you are welcome. You are welcoming us in a very nice way, so we really appreciate that. So, to start off our message for today, I want to ask you all a question. You all like to have friends. Who likes to have friends? Everyone should put your hand up because it's nice to have friends, okay? It is very nice to have friends, and it's also necessary for us to have friends. And I'm not talking about Facebook friends, because I know a lot of people have hundreds, some people even have thousands of friends on Facebook. But if we have to be honest with ourselves, we cannot have true, meaningful relationships with all of those hundreds and thousands of people on Facebook. Is it not true? Is it not true? Yes, yes. So a long time ago, there was a study conducted about friendships. And the results showed that when a friendship reaches the 7-year mark, it is likely to last forever. Okay? So this is true friendship. That is the true friendship that we spoke about now. And it's not that Facebook or superficial friendship. So the reason I mention these things is because friendships have become so superficial. Relationships in general have become so superficial. Nowadays, people don't even think twice about cancelling someone out of their lives. They jump from one relationship to another. They jump from one friendship to another. Okay? People no longer have the true connection with each other that God intended for them. We were not created to have superficial relationships. No. God created us to have meaningful relationships. God is a relational God. And later on we will look at how Jesus came to demonstrate that during his time on earth. But first, I want us to turn to Psalm 90, verse 1 and 2. Psalm 90, verse 1 and 2. Should be easy to get there. I'll just give a moment and then I'll start reading from Psalm 90, verse 1 and 2. And I'm going to read down. And it says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you gave birth to the earth and the world. Even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Now, from everlasting to everlasting, before the world came into existence, we read that God was already there. So if God has always been there, there must have been a time where he had to be alone. Is it not so? There must have been a time that he was alone. I see some of you agree, but it's actually not so. That is not the case. Because as a triune God, loneliness can never be a part of God's existence. Loneliness can never be a part of God's emotions. Here we can see that even in the description of God, the principle of relationships is very clear. The fact that God is a relational God becomes even more evident knowing that he created other heavenly beings. We know he created angels. And furthermore, he created everything on earth, and nature naturally responds to God in praise. Okay? We see all around us that the nature proclaim the praises of God because he is their creator as well. So God's desire for relationships eventually reached its peak level when he created human beings in his own image. And now I want to take us back to the very beginning in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Very easy to get there once again. And I'm going to just start reading. And it says, Then God said, Let us make mankind in our own image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every crawling thing that crawls on the earth. So because we are created in his image, we have received attributes that is in accordance with God. We share the principle of relationships with God. It forms a part of our framework as human beings. By nature, we are relational beings. This is the gift that God has given us. And if we practice this gift correctly, we will not only have a healthy relationship with God, but we will also have healthy relationships with each other. I know there are many ways that the church go about doing their outreach work. We know that churches usually have campaigns. They also sometimes use the olden ways of door-to-door ministry. I don't know if all of you remember the days when we did door-to-door ministries. Okay, that's what churches use. They also tend to have Daniel and Revelation seminars. Okay, to do outreach. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with those methods. I will encourage us to still continue to do that. However, the most effective way to reach out to someone is through friendship evangelism. I'm not sure how your friendship works in your life, but the friendships that I'm involved in, we constantly share things with each other. We share the good things, we share bad things with each other, we share funny things with each other, we just share everything with each other. And when we share these things with each other, we learn from each other and we also learn about each other. We learn to be there for each other and to support each other. I'm sure all of you have that one friend or one or two friends that you can rely on at any time of the day. Isn't it nice to have a friend like that? I know I have a couple of friends that I can just call in the middle of the night and they will be willing to help you whatever the problem might be. It's nice to have friends like that. So let's say, let's go to an imaginary scenario. I want you to imagine with me for a moment that there's a single mother who has just discovered the truth and now she started to attend church. Now, this is a promising story. Eh? Right off the bat, you can see that this is a promising story. We're excited about the prospect of her coming to church, her accepting the truth. But let's say now, the story continues and she completes the 28 fundamental belief studies and she eventually gets baptized. Now, this story is actually now getting better. Okay, this is a very good story. Very excited about this story. Now, for the church, this is probably the best thing that can happen because they have now succeeded in doing what they were supposed to do. After someone gets baptized, we tend to think, job done, who's next? Isn't it so? We tend to think, okay, let's move on to the next person. Let's just get them through the pond here at the back. But there's one problem we sometimes forget about. And the problem is the follow-up work that needs to be done. I want to take us now back to our imaginary scenario of the single mother and show you how things can take a turn for the worse. Because this mother accepted the truth, a lot of things have started to go wrong in her life. She lost her job because they forced her to work on the Sabbath, but she refused, and now she lost her job. Okay? Now the story is not so nice anymore. Now we see a different side to this story. Furthermore, she lost her friends because their faith were in conflict of her new faith. Okay? Suddenly they didn't have anything in common anymore. So she lost her friends. Even her family members cancelled her out of her life, of their lives, because they thought she was going crazy. Okay? Just because she adopted a new faith. This single mother has been through so much in such a small period of time. She is new to the faith, and the last thing that she needs to hear is that she's not allowed to wear jewelry to church. The last thing that she needs to hear is that her dress is too short for church. Isn't it so? And that is sometimes exactly what we do to people that are new to the faith. Okay? We are quick to judge and we are slow to support. The greatest need of this mother is for someone to be a true friend to her, someone who really cares. She needs a church that treats her like real family, who supports her in her time of need. And I want us now to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 25 and 26. 1 Corinthians 12, 25 and 26. And it reads as follows. This makes for harmony among the members, that all the members care for each other. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it. And if one part is honored, all the parts are glad. Now I want to share the following illustration with you, and this illustration will just highlight the value of a true friend. Now this illustration goes as follows. There was once a man who was walking back from work. He was walking home back from work. But on his way back home, he fell into a big hole and he broke his leg. So the hole was very deep and he couldn't get out. So the first person who walked past the hole was his house doctor. So he pleaded with his house doctor to please help him out of this hole. But all his house doctor did was write a prescription for the pain, and he threw the prescription down in the hole. Okay? So the second person who came past was actually his pastor. And he pleaded with his pastor, and surely he thought his pastor would help him out of this hole. So he pleaded with his pastor to please help him out of this hole. And the only thing his pastor did was wrote down a prayer on a piece of paper, and he threw it down the hole. Okay? So the third person who came past the hole was actually his best friend. And now surely he thought, okay, well definitely his best friend is going to help him out of this hole. So he pleaded with his friend. He said, please get me out of this hole. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I've been in here for hours. Please, can you just get me out of this hole? So his best friend proceeded by jumping into the hole with him. Okay? So this actually aggravated this friend with a broken leg, because he thought, why are you jumping in the hole with me? And he actually told his friend, but why are you doing such a stupid thing? Because now both of us are stuck in this hole. How are we going to get out of it? But his friend calmly responded, and he said, do not be afraid. I've been in the same hole before, and I know how to get out of it. So this just highlights the importance and the value that true friendship has. This friend came down to his level in order to get him out of the hole. So now I want us to once again turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and we're going to read here from verse 19 to 23. 1 Corinthians 9, verse 19 to 23 says the following. And this is Paul speaking. Even though I am a free man with no master, I have become a slave to all people to bring many to Christ. When I was with the Jews, I lived like a Jew to bring the Jews to Christ. When I was with those who follow the Jewish law, I too lived under that law. Even though I am not subject to the law, I did this so I could bring to Christ those who are under the law. When I am with the Gentiles who do not follow the Jewish law, I too live apart from that law so I can bring them to Christ. But I do not ignore the law of God. I obey the law of Christ. Verse 22 says, when I am with those who are weak, I share their weakness, for I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save some. I do everything to spread the good news and share in its blessings. So here we see that Paul said that he became like others in order to lead them to Christ. So this doesn't mean that he made compromises with his own faith. That doesn't mean that he actually participated in the sinful behaviors of others. No. He remained true to his own faith and to his own values, but he managed to find common ground with the people, to reach them for Christ. And for us to implement Paul's method, we need to be able to connect with people on a very personal level. I want to share another story with you, and this is a story about a teenage boy. Now, this teenage boy, it was his duty to read stories to his little sister of 4 years old. Okay? Every day he had to read stories to her. And she really enjoyed the story. As soon as story time would come, she would get very excited because now her big brother is going to read stories to her. So one day, this little boy, or this teenage boy, actually came up with a brilliant idea, or he thought it was a brilliant idea in his mind. So he decided that all of the stories that he used to read to his sister, he would record it. Right? And then he went to his little sister and he gave the recordings to his little sister. And he said, now you have all of your stories recorded and now you can listen to them anytime you want. And he was excited about the news that he gave to his sister. But what do you think how do you think the sister felt? She felt sad. Okay? And he couldn't understand why she was sad, because now she has access to these stories 24/7. Okay? But when he asked her, why are you sad about the recordings? She replied and said, the stories does not have a lap that I can sit. So for this little sister, it was not about the stories. It was about the personal connection she had with her brother. It was the relationship that was important to her. Now, as a church, or as members of the church, we can hand out DVDs, we can give Bible studies as much as we want. But what people really want is that personal connection that will lead them to Christ. I'm convinced that most of the visitors that return to church after they've visited the church for the first time, they do not return because of the discussion during the lesson study. They do not return because of the message during the divine service. They return because of the message they have received from each one of us in the interactions we had with them. That is what will make them return to church. There was once prize money offered. It was competition in England to the person who would come up with the best definition of friendship. And the winning definition said the following: a friend is the one who comes in when the whole world has gone out. Isn't that powerful? A friend is the one who comes in when the whole world has gone out. And if we look at the life of Jesus while he was on earth during his ministry, we can see a perfect example of this definition. Jesus was and he remains a true friend to us whenever we need him. And now I want us to turn to the Gospel of Luke, and we're going to read here from chapter 19, verse 1 to 10. And I want us to, the last verse that we're going to read here, verse 10, I want to just have you keep that in the back of your mind. So Luke chapter 19, verse 1 to 10. And this is the story of Zacchaeus, for those of you who know what Luke chapter 19 is about. So I'm going to read for you Luke chapter 19, verse 1 and 10. And it says the following: Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house and in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased, and they said, he has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. And verse 10 says, for the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. So, I have a question for you, and this morning in Utrecht, I asked the same question, and hopefully the response will be better today, or yeah. I asked them, do you think South Africans are friendly people? Do you think South Africans are friendly people? Okay, there's a few people. Okay, now we have a better response. So South Africans are known for their friendliness, or so some of you think. Okay, and I'm from the area in Port Elizabeth. I don't know how to pronounce the new, that one. That one. Okay, so there in Port Elizabeth, we say that we are the friendly city. So we are the friendly city. Some people also call it the windy city, but we prefer to say we are the friendly city. Now, if Port Elizabeth, the friendly city, had to compete with the Jews in the time of Jesus, they would certainly come second best. Okay, they would lose the fight for friendliness, because the Jews considered it an absolute honor to host visitors in their house. This must have meant that the people were probably standing in long queues to invite Jesus to their house. But Jesus chose to stay at the house of Zacchaeus. Earlier we mentioned that we need to meet people on a personal level in order to make a connection with them. And this is exactly what Jesus did with Zacchaeus. Jesus knew that the best way to change Zacchaeus was to meet him at his own home, on his own level. Jesus was and is a friend to sinners. And Jesus was often accused of mingling with sinners. But that was the whole purpose of his coming. Jesus didn't come for the righteous. And then, like I said, we have to keep verse 10 in mind, because verse 10 of the portion that we just read says the following: for the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. He didn't come for the righteous, he came for those who are lost. Now, I'm sure you all will agree that it's nice to have friends who are in the church with you. Is it not so? It's nice to have friends that's in the church. Friends who believe in the same, who has the same faith as you. It's very nice to have those kind of friends. But we have to be careful that we don't limit our friendships to just church people. Okay? Because when our group of friends stays within the parameters of the church, we won't have the opportunity to reach out to others the way Jesus intended. If we only have Adventist friends who already know the truth, how will we effectively reach those that still need to find the truth? To be a friend to someone in the world might be the only chance they have to meet Jesus. I know we always warn people to not mingle with the wrong people. Is it not so? We always warn people not to mingle with the wrong people. Do not be associated with the wrong people. I know parents, they often give the warning to their children. Don't be friends with the wrong people. They are a bad influence in your life. And I fully agree with that. So I just want to clarify that I won't expect children, or someone that is new to the faith, or someone that is still weak in the faith, to mingle with the people of the world. I won't expect that from them. It is only when we are strong in the faith that we can adopt this form of ministering to others. Because when we are strong in the faith, we will not be influenced by others in a negative way, but we will be the positive influence in their lives. However, when we adopt this method of friendship ministry, we must be careful and we have to set for ourselves boundaries. Okay? We have to have boundaries in place in order to continue with this friendship evangelism. If we are strong in the faith, then our boundary lines can stretch far, and then our area of impact will be big. But if our faith is weak, I will recommend that we remain in the safe zone. And the safe zone should be here at church. Okay, this is our safe zone. So if we are weak in the faith, let's remain in our safe zone here at church. The presence of Jesus in the house of Zacchaeus changed the whole atmosphere. It changed the attitude of Zacchaeus. Suddenly, Zacchaeus was willing to give half of his possessions to the poor. And I believe that through the work of the Holy Spirit in our lives, we can also have that impact in the lives of others. We can also be the change in atmosphere that is needed. I'm not saying that we should go to a bar in order to reach the people of the world, but we can reach out to someone who struggles with an alcohol problem. Okay? I'm not saying that we will be able to change the atmosphere of a whole nightclub, but we might be able to change the atmosphere of someone's heart who frequently goes to a nightclub. I want to conclude with one more important point on friendship evangelism, and that is the approach we have when we present the truth to others. Now, as Seventh-day Adventists, we tend to be fighting fit when it comes to presenting the truth. Is it not so? We tend to be fighting fit. We always want to prove others wrong. Okay? We are the only ones that know the truth, and we want to make sure that they know that. And I want to give an example to demonstrate that that is what we do as Adventists. So let's say, for example, someone dies in your family, but some of the extended family in your family are not Adventists. Okay? Now, at the funeral, you decide to try and convince these non-Adventists that their loved ones are not in heaven. Okay? At the grave, when they are mourning the death of their loved one, they're busy crying. You now decide to go and try and convince them about the state of the dead. Okay? This is a wrong move. Would you agree? This is a very wrong move. And I've seen this before. I've seen this many times that people try to do that. But all that the family needed from you during that sad time was to be supportive and to show them love. That's all they needed. Okay? God will provide the right opportunity for you to present the truth in a friendly and loving manner. Maybe it's not even you that needs to present the truth to them. Maybe they're going to receive the truth from someone else. Friendships build trust. And it is only when people trust you that they become receptive to the truth you present to them. So my prayer for us today is that we will realize that we have received a natural gift to build relationships. So let's be inspired by this to go out and make friends with the people of the world. But before we do that, let's make sure that our own relationship with God is strong enough. Let's make sure that we have set for ourselves boundaries in place before we go out to the people of the world. And may God help us through His Holy Spirit to continue and finish the work Jesus started so that He can soon return. Amen. Amen. We will now sing our closing hymn.